Hey, what's up, guys? I'm gonna be talking about sugar addiction. So, we all remember as a kid, we would run up to our little corner store, go to our local 7-Eleven or our local liquor. We all remember that, right? We'd get our favorite beverages, our favorite candy. We'd go back home and enjoy that. As a kid, we all remember that. But what if I told you if we continue this as a habit for the rest of our lives, it can get into some really crazy problems and health problems? So, I'll be going to a lot of this type of stuff, and the main thing about my speech is sugar addiction. So, to start, I'm gonna go into some problems, causes, and solutions. So started off with problems, I have two. For number one, I have risk of disease, and number two, I have obesity. For my causes, I have inability to control your cravings, which is number one, and number two is the imbalance of consumed foods. So for my solutions, to finish it off, I have three. Number one is what the government can do. Number two is what society can do, and number three is what I can do as a person to help this to create more awareness on sugar addiction. To start it off, I have an article from Diane Stallings from Medusa News on the 21st of January 2017. So she says, on average, Americans obtain 16% of their total calories from added sugars that provide no nutrient value. So straight off the bat, we learned that all the sugar that we're consuming, 60% of Americans that consume sugar are have no nutrient value. They gain nothing from it other than enjoyment. And that enjoyment is something I'm going to go more to description about and talk about how it really affects one another. So to start off, we have problems. Problems for number one is the risk of disease. From the Colonist Times on August 10th of 2016, they say sugar consumption is not only the increase of risk of disease, it also raises the amount of glycation. So straight off the bat, in the first sentence, they say it not only does it increase the risk of disease. As I said, my first problem is risk of disease. A lot of people will not see these type of diseases, these type of health problems from the amount of sugar they consume until it's too late. I'll go into further other problems, but straight off the bat, diseases strictly, we have very severe heart diseases that people gain, high cholesterol, all this from the sugar addiction that they get, and they don't understand how severe these problems are until it's already happening. They don't see the awareness on this, and the awareness is something I'm going to talk about later on in my solutions. But for my second problem, we have obesity. Obesity is a big topic in a lot of people's lives. Scott Kurt from the Albany Reporter News on the 9th of February 2016 says, nothing's wrong with sugar, it's the overconsumption of it. So I agree with that a lot, and it's why it's my second problem, obesity. Scott Kurt even says it's not about what you eat. Sometimes it's more about how much of it you eat. If we're eating a certain amount of sugar, but it's balanced, there's no problem with it. But we're eating sugar in everyday life, and we're eating it over something that could really benefit us, like nutrients, vitamins, healthy foods. It causes into obesity, and obesity is something that's happened in my life, and I'll talk about that later more into my solutions. But to continue back with my problem that I have, obesity is a main factor in a lot of people's lives, especially in the U.S. U.S. is known for how rich they are in their consumed foods of beverages, candy, a lot of the restricted main foods. And I'm gonna go into some causes of this, of why this is a problem in people's lives. So for number one reason why people get these problems like risk of diseases and obesity, number one is their inability to control their cravings. So from Andrea Peterson from the Wall Street Journal on the 28th of September in 2020 says, the biggest problem in this country is overweight and obesity. So that is one of the problems I talked about before, but that is caused because of the inability to control your cravings. So we all know, the person watching this knows, we can get what we want at any time, but is it what we need? That's a no. So that's what I want to say is my first cause. Inability to control your cravings. I can't control it sometimes, and I'm very aware of it. I've turned into a strict diet, which I'll go to later on in my solutions. But a lot of us can't control what we want, and that's the main cause. One of the main causes of the problems I talked about before, like the risk of diseases and obesity. For the second one, I said is the imbalance of consumed foods. So, from the Business Mirror of October 1st, 2017 said, in the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the increasing demand of growing population for food and beverages has gone up. So we see right away the imbalance of consumed foods, which is one of my causes, is connecting to this, saying that, we have food and beverages that are obviously not healthy, are going up. It's like a graph, it goes up. it's getting more demand, and obviously with economics, it's supply and demand. So obviously, companies are gonna supply more for the consumers. So for these problems, the cause is the imbalance of consumed foods. We're wanting more of what we shouldn't have. We're wanting more sugar, more beverages that all have a lot of calories on it. There's in stores those type of smoothies that you obviously they taste healthy, they seem healthy, but if you look at the calorie count, it's not healthy at all. It has a lot of sugar in it, and this is the imbalance of consumed foods. We consume what we think might be good for us, like a smoothie, but a smoothie in a store that is filled with sugar. But to finish it off, I'm gonna go into my solutions. So my solutions I'll go into great detail about. Just to recap, we talked about some problems like obesity and risk of disease, and we talked about how these type of things are caused with not controlling our cravings and the imbalance of our consumed foods. Talking about how yes, we can control it, but if we do we want to control it, that's probably a no with most of our lives. So some solutions. Number one, what the government can do. So from in the 29th of September in 2020, Andrea Peterson from the Wall Street Journal says a federal committee's recommendation that Americans should limit their consumption of added sugars to 6% of their daily calories. So you see, they're recommending sugar should be added to your daily calories, but at a certain percent, at a limited 6%. And as I said in the beginning of my speech, I talked about a 16% of consumption in daily lives. They want to limit that to 6%. So the government is trying to recommend these people who are consumers in their own country that 6% should only be consumed. That it's obviously not healthy for you if you consume more than 6%. That's recommended by the by the American Federation. So to go into my second solution, what society can do. So Rebecca Myers from the Sunday Times on the 20th of March of 2016 says we need to improve our diet as a nation. And that is very bland and very brief to talk about, but it's very powerful at the same time if you think about it. Society as a society, we know we deserve better in our health and our future. So as a society, we need to help each other and really improve each other's diets. So what can I do as a person? I myself have been obese at a very young age, around when I was 10 or 12, and I got into sports, which is soccer. I got into soccer, and that really helped me turn my life around. It turned my mindset, knowing that, what I was consuming is not what I should be consuming. It's the difference between wanting and needing. And I know myself, I can help my siblings and other cousins to really control this habit and control their cravings and the balance of consume food and understand that it's not okay for you. But to wrap it up all together, we talked about lots of problems, causes, and solutions. We talked about obesity, risk of diseases, and we talked about why is that caused due to the cravings and the imbalance of what we eat, and how we can find awareness on this. How can we fix it? I'm glad to give you this speech, and thank you.